Good afternoon, everyone. This is Enrique Sanchez of Spanish United, founder and director. Today, we have a very special guest on the show. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
You bet. Hey, this is Representative, Oklahoma State Representative Justin J.J. Humphrey.
Welcome, Representative. Thank you for being on the show.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Likewise, yes. As we have spoken through Messenger, I contacted you because, as you know, there is a controversial bill that's going to be passed in your state, and we would like to know more about the bill, what it entails, and you were the one that proposed the bill. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so we would like to talk a little bit about the bill. I was able to read a little bit about it. So can you explain why you decided to propose a bill?
And if anybody wants to, if anybody wants to go look it up, it's Oklahoma House Bill 3133. Oklahoma House Bill HB 3133.
Perfect. So we would like to ask, why did you propose the bill? Like, what prompted you to decide to propose the bill? Like, what's the reason behind it?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I've been in law enforcement for about 35 years. And so, I'm way back where I can remember when 9/11 happened and we had planes fly into a building and 3,000 people died. And we were able to declare immediately that those people were terrorists and that they had attacked the United States. We went to war with them, declared them terrorists. But right now we've got a problem on the border. And so why I authored this bill, I've been down to the border multiple times. One of the big problems, you have two main cartels that are basically human trafficking, exploiting drugs. They're exploiting people so that they can get drugs across here. But one of the biggest concerns right now is fentanyl and the fentanyl crisis. And I don't know if anybody knows this, if your listeners are aware of it, but those two cartels are mainly responsible for bringing enough fentanyl across that it's my understanding that it's enough to kill every American 6 times over. So again, why are we having that much fentanyl? That ought to be disturbing to every one of us. But we've seen this year fentanyl take 107,000 Americans, mainly ages from 19 to 49, which is, your military, your primary work age, And so that ought to be alarming to all of us. And yet nobody has declared these two cartels as terrorist groups. And so that's when I was down there talking to the Border Patrol, talking to Sheriff's Department, to the Texas Rangers. That's the concern we had, that nobody wants to label these groups as terrorists. And so that's what I was trying to do.
Perfect. And I do commend you for doing that, because right now there is an issue of narco-terrorism that's happening across the border. And I know that Senator Lindsey Graham wanted to designate also 7 or 10 of the cartels in Mexico as designated terrorists to go in to Mexico to destroy their manufacturing and all that. And that's something that
Sure.
I really do commend. But my concern in Spanish United,
Yeah.
and the reason why I brought you here, is why specifically it's mentioned the clause of Hispanic descent. Is there an issue of Hispanic gangs that are very prevalent in Oklahoma? Because I was there about 30 years ago and you had that problem.
No, here's the deal. I can only file 8 bills in the House is all you can run. But I file a lot more than that. I file probably anywhere from 40 to 50 every session. And so I called that in when I was on the border. So I'm sitting down there on the border in Texas and just called our people and said, hey, write this bill up, really loose language. And when they sent that to me, I've looked at 40 something bills. I didn't catch that in that specific language. And again, a lot of people say, well, why didn't you say Mexican cartel? If you're kind of old school law enforcement, we were really beat in to not say Mexican. We were beat in to say Hispanic. You know what I'm saying? So I mainly refer to, because a lot of times if you're talking to somebody from Guatemala, or you're talking to somebody from another country other than Mexico that are Hispanic, and you call them Mexican, they get really kind of pissed off sometimes at that.
Absolutely.
I understand that. So I use the word Hispanic quite frequently. And I said Hispanic gangs, which really, they are Hispanic. So, and there's nothing, I mean, I'd be proud to be Hispanic. I've got one of my best friends growing up was Hispanic. So the thing about it is there was no racial slur on that. After I looked at the bill, and again, a lot of people were upset, and I understand that. And I came out publicly and said, hey, my intent was never to offend anybody. And if I have offended, I don't think I was necessarily wrong. I mean, there was no intent in wrong, but right. It's never wrong to say, hey, if I offended you, I apologize. Let me tell you what my intent is.
Right.
And after I looked at the bill, really the bill gets greatly improved if we take out Hispanic and we say all groups that are criminal cartels. And so I've actually sent that over into our narcotics bureau and said, hey, come up with the language. And we work together to say organized criminal, national criminal units, to include domestic gangs, and so that we can kind of put a net and put anybody that's involved in that. One of the other things that I'd really like to, vocalize is that, if people would read that bill, and that's why I wanted to give the bill number, it clearly says people who are involved in these criminal activities. So it's not like all Hispanics, it's Hispanics that were involved in this. And the reason I'm saying that Hispanic gangs were because we see these two gangs, Sinaloa and New Age, are your main ones. But as you said, there's many others that are involved, that are adding to this, or that they're using. And when they get here, they use other gangs. They use, your white supremacist gangs, your Crips, your Bloods, which are black gangs, primarily black gangs. So again, I think the bill gets greatly improved if we take that out and just put every criminal element. But that's what the deal was. I'd called it in for the border. It took me 5 minutes, after sitting down and talking to these border patrol and people, and we're talking about, why has nobody declared these people terrorists? I'm like, I agree, man. 3,000 people killed in a terrorist act, which we can all agree was a horrific terrorist act. 9/11. Absolutely, no question. But because I don't know, I mean, I'd be interested in people's opinion on this. I think a lot of people see fentanyl as, well, you did dope, so you killed yourself, or right, it's your fault. When I mean, hey, I know two firefighters. I got a report the other day. Somebody called me about two firefighters here in Oklahoma who were celebrating something, and they smoked a joint, and it was laced with fentanyl. I mean, these are not major criminal, and again, we've legalized marijuana. So, or not legalized it, we medically,
right, correct,
might as well legalize it. But, so we're not talking about bad guys here. We're talking about two guys, firefighters, who went out going to have a party, smoked a joint, and laced, and both of them end up dead. And, so again, for people to label everybody dying of fentanyl as just, they're just druggies, and not so. I mean, and even if they are, have a drug issue, that doesn't mean they deserve to die.
Of
you
course.
know what I'm saying? So again, I don't know. It just seems like we can have 107,000 people die, and nobody wants to have the conversation of who's responsible and do we call them terrorists. And so that's what I'm not really happy the way the bill got out and got so much attention, but I am happy that, we're having a conversation. And I think that most people, I've laughed, I've had news media and people call me from all over the United States, and they think that I'm going to be like, no, I'm not, no comment, or I'm not going to talk to you. And they're generally pretty shocked when I go, why, yeah, I'll come on about anything. Heck yeah, I'll come talk to you. You bet. And I think they're equally shocked when I say, hey, we're all human. If I made a mistake, I don't classify it as I think I was right, but I think I could have way better
Right.
worded it. I have no problem saying that. I think I've changed it, so I think I've admitted that it becomes much, much better. And that's the way we get good legislation. And I'll tell you where I'm at. That's what's wrong with our government right now is so many of our government officials, I got to run a poll before they can do anything. They're afraid to say anything because they just come out and every little word gets scrutinized so hard that they're scared to. And again, I think most of them need to get a little thicker skin. If you're in politics, you know what I'm saying? You need to be able to take it. And so I can pretty much take it. And if I'm wrong, I don't have a problem. Another thing in politics that you don't see very much is people going, well, okay, I can fix that. Maybe we were rushed that. We're wrong. They don't like to say, I'm sorry. They don't like to say, hey,
Right.
that just kills the politicians,
Yeah, there needs to be more transparency today. And I do agree with you that political correctness has gone out of control, but the issue of drugs is a major it's a major issue. It's killing a lot of people and it's affecting economies and societies. My concern, my concern in Spanish United, and this is the reason why I'm having this open dialogue with you, is I'm glad you're able to clear up the misunderstanding of the bill. But as a Hispanic advocacy civil rights organization, our concern is the protection of Hispanic civil rights. Like in many parts of the country where you don't have a visible Hispanic population, Hispanic people get racially profiled a lot and abused a lot. So I kind of got alarmed.
I understand that.
Yeah, I got alarmed when I saw that bill. And
when we had 9/11,
right. I was just saying that my concern is that and this is just my my understanding from the bill, that it could be interpreted that Hispanic people could be racially profiled and pulled over, because that is happening in many parts of the country. So that's the reason why I wanted to speak with you, because many Hispanic people get stereotyped as it is. And my concern is Hispanic people that are innocent, have nothing to do with cartels or drug dealing, could be swept up in being falsely imprisoned or falsely arrested or falsely accused of a crime. So that's the reason why I wanted to know more about this.
I think that when we saw 9/11, we're going back 20 plus years ago, maybe further, I can't remember. But I think when we saw the, Afghans, and we saw the ISIS, and we saw the same thing happen with Arabic and, Arabian, those of descent, everybody's, oh, hey, you're a terrorist if you're from the Middle East over there. And so, again, I get that with what's going on in the border right now. And so much of that talk, illegal, everybody's illegal, I would definitely understand why people of Hispanic, nationality would feel that way. And again, I think if you read the bill, I would say if you read the bill says if you're involved in this, and of and I think I said Hispanic gang. I'd have to go back and look at the bill, but so I wasn't targeting the average Hispanic out here. If you're not involved in drug dealing, but again, was it a poor choice of word? Could we do better? Do I understand why people would have that, concern? Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely. And do I hear what you're saying is that really you don't even need that out there. It's already there that people, there's this big push on the border. And again, that's mainly going to be Hispanic coming across that border. And again, there's already some tension there. So we ought to be able to have a conversation, and I don't think anybody should be able to argue with what you're saying. I'm sure not going to argue with what you're saying. I think you're 100% right. So that's why I was ready to once it got pointed out, I wasn't even aware of it. Once it was pointed out, got no problem changing it. I think people, I think a reasonable, prudent person could say, I understand what you're trying to do, but Humphrey, you could do a better job if you change the language. And I go, you are 100% correct. And let's get that done. And so, again, and I'm glad that it started the conversation. I think we need to have the conversation that not everybody of Hispanic descent is here illegally.
Right.
Not everybody of Hispanic descent, even if they are here illegally, may still be good people. Yes, there are some bad people, and again, some of the bad people coming across are not just Hispanic. We've got Chinese nationals, we've got Arabic nations coming over.
Right.
So again, that's the conversation we should be having. And I think it's okay to say, hey, you know what? That was poor wording. Let's fix that. Let's get it done. And we've done that, or I've done that. And so, again, but I'm glad we're having a conversation about what your thoughts. I tell people in law enforcement, you go to a car crash, you're standing on one side of the car, I'm standing on the other. You're saying, hey, the car's totaled. I'm saying, no, it's in great shape. It's all perspective of where you've been, where you're standing, so your perspective may be different than my perspective.
Right.
We've got to be able to listen to each other's perspectives.
Absolutely. And I feel that open dialogue is important, even though I may be ideologically different from you, but I feel that when there is open dialogue, we can listen to different opinions, different points of view. That's how a civil democracy works. Different points of views, even though we may not agree with it, they meet in the table and talk. And I do believe that having these conversations are very important because, like I said, because of the issue of crime, Hispanic gangs in general tend to be targeted, and they tend to be talking points. So I also wanted to ask, in the state of Oklahoma, is there like a pandemic of Hispanic gangs that are causing a lot of trouble? Because when I think of Oklahoma, I don't really associate with Hispanic gangs, because here in California, we used to have a lot more Hispanic gangs, but a lot of gangs have fled to other states because they don't have three strike laws and gang injunctions. So maybe and this is my assumption. Clear me if I'm mistaken or not. That maybe that's the reason why you proposed that bill, because maybe there is an infestation of Hispanic gangs that are causing trouble, and that's the reason why you wanted to tackle it. So that's what I wanted to know. Yeah. Is there a huge pandemic of Hispanic gangs in the state?
Yeah, I think that California has more probably that problem than any other state, I would say, based on my training in law enforcement. One of the trainings that I attended here recently, the guy got up. He's one of the most renowned trainers in the cartels, and he got up and was showing a film, and he started with saying, back in the old days, gangsters would machine gun everybody down and kill the whole, 7 or 8 people, and that was to intimidate everybody. And said, after a while, that didn't intimidate anybody. It just got old hat, So what they started doing was, and he showed this. Graphics showed it. Them cutting people's head off, sticking on the sack, and rolling it out in front of the rival gangs. And again, he said, this got to be old hat. And when he showed that, he said, this is going to be real graphic, and he showed people getting their heads cut off. And then he said, this is going to be really, really graphic. And he showed them mutilating, and they're doing this to intimidate and get control of people. And so they're mutilating their rival gang members and people. And then he said, this is going to get really, really graphic. And he was showing a guy leg chained, neck chained, and they cut this guy's leg off, and they beat him with his leg, beat him to death. And then he said it's going to get really, really graphic. He showed some more, and I'm not going to go into all the gory details. But anyways, he got about probably 4 or 5 really graphics, and we took a break. I went up there and told him, I said, hey, you get one more really on that, and I'm probably really going to walk out the room, and I'm pretty strong constitution. He goes, I've got a reason I want to show you that. He said, we come back from break, you're going to understand. He comes back from the break, and he shows us another beheading situation. And he said, where do you think that's at? And we're all kind of I guess Mexico, because that's where you've been showing us this stuff.
Right.
And he said, no, that's Irving, Texas. So Irving, Texas is about 2 hours away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So Oklahoma City and Irving, Texas, I'm right in kind of between those two. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Oklahoma, but Irving, Texas is as close to me as Oklahoma City. And so that was just a shock. They went to showing states that you never would believe, Georgia, Tennessee, all of these kind of gang related, mutilation, intimidation. And he said, we don't have one in Oklahoma. Now, I have had reports, but we haven't verified. We can't lay it back to them. But he went in and he started showing bridges and, overpasses where there was gang signs. So the thing about it is, those gangs are present. They're here. There has been a huge increase in the Hispanic population there in Oklahoma City. So again, that we have seen an increase, and that's not just here in Oklahoma, but I want to start a conversation of how we identify these people as terrorists. And again, they're not, they're as bad on their own nationality as they are on anybody else. And we just need to declare the bad guys. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't, and I agree, we don't need to make it one nationality. What I'm trying to do is distinguish these two gangs are the main ones that we need to concentrate.
Right.
But again, is China supplying them? Who's giving them fentanyl? They're not making it. Guess what? China's bringing it in and giving it to them. Right. And we're so stupid we haven't declared war, or we haven't declared it an act of war. When China stands up and says, hey, we're going to be the number one economic power, and the only one in our way is America. So guess what? We're going to send COVID their way. We're going to send fentanyl their way. We're going to steal their technology, and we're sitting over here and never declared nothing on them. And that's the point that I'm making is we got to have a conversation.
And what's interesting,
not just in Oklahoma. I think we have to have.
I agree with you. And you interesting point mentioned about China, because a lot of people don't know about China is that prior to China becoming communist, they had a problem with opium. One of the things that China did to get rid of the opium was to deal with the drug dealers in a very harsh way, and they don't have a drug problem. And I feel that, and this is my personal opinion, that there needs to be stricter penalties when it comes to drug dealing, because I feel that drug dealers and cartels are not punished enough. Like I was in Asia 23 years ago, and when I was at the airport in Taiwan, which is Republic of China, not communist China, but the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek's China. At the airport, I saw a sign at the customs that says, "Warning: drug trafficking is punishable by death." So over there, they don't have a problem with drug dealing. Like in America, we have the death penalty for rape, murder, and whatever. But when it comes to drug dealers and drug trafficking, they're not punished enough. So if there were like death penalty for drug dealers, I think it would serve as a deterrent. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say it, because not a lot of people talk about the history of drugs. And if you want to study the history of opium, and again, so many people do not understand, fentanyl and what's the background in it, and that China, if there's a country understands this, like you're saying, they know that this kind of drug, what it can do to a country, because as you said, their country was nearly completely wiped out because so many people had become addicted to opiate. Right. And again, that is why that they're so strict, because they know it can actually take out an entire nation, an entire people. And so again, that's why I'm saying, I've studied what's the origins of crack cocaine and ice and some of these other drugs. I mean, I don't know if you're paying attention right now. They've got this new drug, I can't pronounce it, xylene or something like that, horse tranquilizer. And people are using it, and man, they're losing their limbs and losing their life. And it's some bad stuff. And again, where's that? And I'm trying to study where that, what's the origin. And I think that's what we've got to look at. What's the origin of this drug? Who's bringing this in here? What, I mean, is their intent just to make money? Because I really don't think fentanyl, they're supplying fentanyl at absolutely dirt cheap, rock bottom price. And guess what? They're mixing it with. I had a situation not very long ago, and I don't know if any of your listeners will know much, but I worked. I used to be pretty rowdy, so I've what I call on the job training. Before I became a probation officer, I partied a whole lot and did a whole lot of things.
Right.
So the police a lot of times will call me if they got a problem that they don't know what it is. And so I got to call a young man that I used to supervise in drug court. I loved him. I know his whole family loved him. Good guy, just drug problem. He'd get off of it and lift weights, be great, and then he'd get back on it. But anyways, the police were chasing him. They chased him to this house, and he was at the water fountain drinking water, and he'd throw down the water hose, and he'd run to the next house, and they'd chase him to that house, and he'd be over there at the water fountain, their water hose, drinking water.
Right.
Chased him to about five houses, found him passed out on the yard, water hose in his, and they took him to the hospital. He was unconscious, and he died. And so they called me and said, JJ, do you have any idea what in the world? Because we got no idea what's going on here. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna make a guess. I said, it's just a guess out of nowhere. I said, I'm gonna say it's ecstasy. And I said, what happens? That heats up your core, and you try to cool yourself down, but you take in so much water that you can actually toxic water. You can drown your whole body, your brain, everything else by just overcome with water. And so I said, I think that sounds like what happened. And so they called me back and said, hey, you were almost dead on, but said it was. Now, that's really disturbing, because if you're cutting cocaine or if you're cutting methamphetamine, you can stick that right in there and cut it, and it's not that tough. But when you're putting that in pill form, and that said, and I've got other friends that have been killed on the fentanyl issue. And I mean, I don't think Oklahoma has been anywhere impacted like some of the other states. But, when you're talking about we're a state of about 4 million, which is really pretty small population.
Right.
But I know we had over 1,000 people here in Oklahoma killed by fentanyl. That's pretty horrific.
I could imagine. And I really feel that drug addiction is a national security crisis, and the cartels are posing a national security risk. That I am in agreement with you that something has to be done, because it's like because the cartels used to be just concentrated in one area. They would do what they do, and it didn't affect nobody. Now it's affecting inside the United States, and I feel that something is not done is going to become a national security risk. So I do commend you, and I do agree with you that that this could be serve as an example to tackle this issue. But at the same time, there needs to be awareness that Hispanic people are being affected by the violence of the cartels as well, not just the ones that bring it and deal it. They're
more than
victims.
Anybody else. Absolutely, more than anybody else. I mean.
Yeah, people don't realize, when I have conversations with people that use drugs, they don't realize that every time they use any type of drug, they're contributing to terrorism in Latin America. That's the reason why people are coming to Latin America, to get away from the violence.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And again, hey, when you're down there on the border and they're getting a group of people to cross in the deepest part of the river in the early mornings when it'd be cold. And we're talking about kids, women, and that's who they're running out there. why would they do that? Why wouldn't you just go down the river a little bit more to the more shallow part? Why would you go at a time when the river is going to be one of the, so again, what they're doing is they're putting people out there as human decoys. And now all the law enforcement's got to come to that point and try to make sure people's lives are saved and make sure that they get across safely. And guess what? What are they doing down the river? Yeah, they're coming across there with their drugs, with whatever else, the human trafficking people that they want to traffic. And again, one of the things that I laughed, the sheriff down there was talking. We'd seen a man and a woman and a small kid. And anyways, we were talking about that they had a 7-year-old, roughly 7-year-old, come to their sheriff's station. They got him in custody. He was one of the undocumented kids. They had him in the jail. Anyways, the kid said, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom." And they said, "Hey, we'll have so-and-so, Deputy so-and-so show you where the bathroom is." He goes, "Hey, I've been here 3 times. I know exactly where the bathroom is." Jumped up, ran in there to the bathroom. And what they were saying was they just a lot of times take these kids, run them right back over, run them right back
That's
over.
Horrible.
He'd been in there. You know what I'm saying? It just, wow, you just can't wrap your mind around it until you go down there and until you see these kids that are just, young. I mean, how I think about when my kids were at that age, and you just think about these kids coming by themselves or with a teenage or with, 3-year-old with his 5-year-old sister and stuff like that. So just very, very, very scary, very horrific. And again, you're talking about rape trees and these coyotes raping people. And that's what I'm saying is the human carnage. It's got to stop. We got to stand up. But, when you were talking about, I 1,000% agree with you on that we got to address the drug situation. But I will tell you, we've got to restore confidence in our court system. We got, that's another problem. I'm working on a death penalty case right now where we were able to prove that the district attorney destroyed 10 key pieces of evidence, and their own investigator signed an affidavit saying that. We were able to retrieve a letter that DA sent to their only key witness in this case, who actually admitted to killing the guy. And he was told if he would give up another guy, saying that he hired him to kill him, that they wouldn't give him the death penalty. Well, what do you think he's going to say? And so they wrote him a letter. Yeah, I mean, wow. And they wrote him a letter and said, "Hey, your testimony doesn't line up with the medical examiners, and it would be nice for our case if you'd change your testimony. And here's what we'd like you to say." Well, that's called perjury. He had already given a sworn statement, so he comes in and changes sworn statement. They should have blown the whole case up. But again, that's witness tampering. It's a felony. Perjury is a felony. Destroying evidence is a felony. We were able to prove 1,000%. Even the AG come back and said this case needs remanded back to the original court. Our appellate court said, nope, execute him. And every one of them, there was not a dissenting vote. And then our pro board was split on the thing. And fortunately, we just got a reprieve. So they put a stay in the U.S. Supreme Court. And it looks like we're going to get a hearing in the U.S. Supreme Court. But here, this guy's been on death row about 27 years. He's been on the gurney, I think, 3 times. He's had his last meal like 9 times or something. And now it's, I get asked, do you think he's innocent? I'm saying, well, I don't know if he's innocent or not, but I tell you, he damn sure got robbed on trial. He had an illegal trial, and the people in court need to be arrested and put where he is.
Right.
But I said, I've looked at all the evidence, and I can tell you right now, I don't think they could convict him of jaywalking if they took him back to court, unless they got something. And that's another thing we found out that 2 or 3 DAs and 3 AGs withheld a whole box of evidence on this case after a couple of us legislators went out there and said, hey, we want this evidence. We want, denied us, the attorneys denied us, which again is illegal. And so when you got cases like that, we had another case here recently that was an obvious self-defense case. Even the guy that got killed, his girlfriend testified to the officers, hey, this guy tried to kill, my boyfriend and his friend tried to kill this guy. They were beating him with the pipe. They had the gun in their waistband. This guy managed to get the gun and shot both of them. And again, they got him on death row. Where I'm from, hey, if you fight off two people and save your own life, I don't know that we need to name a road after him, or have a parade, but by darn, I'd say you're justified in that.
Right.
And they end up executing that. So we've got some problems in our court system. We're seeing our court system weaponized. We're seeing people not agree. That's a big thing in our country. If we're going to have law and order, we have to believe that the courts are bipartisan, that they're not, that they're about the law, that you can't pull the blindfold off the lady justice and expect to get justice.
Right.
You know absolutely. What I'm saying? We got to be equal justice for everyone.
Absolutely. And, justice has to be impartial. Well, anyway, Representative, we've come to the end of our time. We covered a lot of important issues. I want to tell you thank you so much for being on the show, and for your side in Oklahoma. Anyone that wants to reach out to me, we are all on social media platforms. We are on Spanish United, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and as soon as I finish with this podcast, I will email you the link, and you can share it with everyone that you want to share it with.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having an open dialogue. Hey, I hooked you up on friend requests. Hope to follow you on Friends. And if you come to Oklahoma, look me up.
Oh, I really appreciate it, Representative. Thank you so much. Have yourself a wonderful, blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.